Okay, Boker Tov, everybody. We can get started. Chodesh Tov. Welcome to class number 117 on our ongoing series on the Siddur. Of course, today is Rosh Chodesh Adar, so just spend a couple minutes. So it was interesting here in chat this morning after Minyan ended. So Rabbi Mendel, the vice principal of the school who runs the Minyan, started singing Misha Nichnas Adar, Misha Nichnas Adar. So that, of course, first of all, it's Adar. Okay, when you have 2 days of Adar, we only blow shofar second day Belu. That's okay. So I said that's interesting. I was thinking, I don't call it a halacha, but maybe it is a halacha. The concept that when Adar enters, we increase our choice. It's always a good thing. We can do an extra month of extra simcha. But does that really apply to Adar Aleph? And Adar Aleph, Adar Beit. What will the real Adar please stand up? So what is the real Adar?
Wait a minute, it isn't even Adar yet. It's
Okay. I understand. That's what I said right away. It's not really Adar, but okay, it's okay. We call it Rosh Chodesh Adar. I mean, we do call it that. So it is now the reason we have 2 days Rosh Chodesh, of course, because before we had a fixed calendar, so two things had happened. You didn't know when you davened this morning, when you davened on day 30 of the month, you did not know if that would be Rosh Chodesh or not, because the new moon could be declared on day 30 or day 31, turning it into day 1. So you didn't really know. So since day 30 always has the potential, in theory, to be Rosh Chodesh, so we today celebrate it as an extra day of Rosh Chodesh. So that's why we have 2 days. So we can assume it's Rosh Chodesh Adar. B, more importantly, until we fix the calendar, you did not know if there was going to be 1 or 2 Adars. Because it seems like, if you learn the Gemara, it seems like they decided, like everybody decides everything, at the last minute. So the rabbis decided, like on the 28th of Adar and the 29th of Adar, should we make it a leap year? Because there were all kinds of calculations that went into deciding if it's going to be 1 Adar or 2 Adar. It's not like today, 7 out of 19 years. They didn't have any fixed calendars. You could have 2 years in a row. So all the different permutation. So you want to collect as much data as possible. So you waited till the last possible minute to declare if this was going to be Adar Aleph or if there's going to be Adar Beit. And that's why the Mishnah says, and this is where this Adar Beit stuff is, the real month comes from, that if they read the Megillah in Adar, and then after Purim, the Beit Din decides to make Adar Beit. So the Mishnah says it's okay. Everything, Adar Aleph, Adar Beit are all the same. There's no difference. There's only 2 differences. Kriyas Megillah, umatanat le'avyonim. Reading the Megillah, you have to read the Megillah over, even though you read it already. You have to over, and you have to give matanat le'avyonim. You don't have to have a Suda. You don't have to get drunk again. They should never get drunk, but okay, that was a joke. You have to get drunk. You don't have to have a Suda. You don't do Mishloch Manot again. Just do Matanot Levyonim, because when the poor people hear the Megillah being read, they know they're going to get money that day. So it's again a beautiful halakha that Matanot Levyonim go together with Megillat Esther. So you have to read it again. So meaning, obviously, they would decide at the end. Now, why should you read it again? So the Mishnah says, the Gemara says, really, you should read Megillah and Adar Aleph. Why should you read the Megillah and Adar Aleph? Somebody. Why should we don't read the Megillah and Adar Aleph, but that's what we should do. Why should we do it?
Mitzvah biyadoi.
Correct. Zrizim makdim in the mitzvah. It's Adar. Read the Megillah. What do you mean? You want to read it the first time. The Gemara says you're right, except we have a counter argument. Like everything, there's arguments both sides. What's the counter argument? The counter argument, the Gemara says, very funny argument. Not a funny argument. The argument's you want to be geula legeula. You want to be somech masmich geula legeula. The redemption to redemption, the redemption of Purim, and redemption of Pesach. You want to read them next to each other. There's Purim and Pesach are connected, so we don't want to separate them by 2 months. But really, if not for that reason, really, we should read the Megillah in Adar Aleph. Of course, we're not going to I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we know that the Geula of Pesach and the Geula of Purim are very different, right? Very briefly, the Geula of Pesach is all God and no Moshe. Like, we don't even mention Moshe in in the Haggadah. It's miraculous. It's everything, supernatural. It's all God. It's impressive, to know that there's a God in the world. Purim is the exact opposite. God is missing. God's not mentioned. It's the Geula coming from the people. So it's a very different Geula. Of course, we mature through the year, so to speak. Historically, Pesach is the first holiday, and Purim is the last holiday. Purim is the last biblical holiday. Hanukkah is post-biblical. So anyways, that's a very interesting. But that's the only reason we read the Megillah and other Beit is because we want it close to Pesach. But the simple sounding of the Gemara, and for obvious, the real Adar should be Adar Aleph. Now, I don't know if anybody has site, and other. I think I don't know. Everybody, my people do different things. That's the nice Jewish way to do things differently. But I think many people observe the Yortzeit in Adar Aleph. I don't know. Some do both. I don't really understand that, but okay. Maybe some do Adar Beit, but it seems like Adar Aleph. Now, everybody knows, and this is why people probably think Adar Beit is the real Adar, that a bar mitzvah boy only becomes bar mitzvah in Adar Beit, right? So I think that's not exactly accurate. I think really a bar mitzvah boy probably becomes bar mitzvah in Adar Aleph. But because not 1,000% sure, you have to be strict. So you don't want the bar mitzvah boy to lane. Maybe he's not bar mitzvah in Adar Aleph. So if he's not bar mitzvah, he can't read the Torah. He can't be the chazan, the shliach tzibur on behalf of the community. So we're strict. But on the other hand, we have to be strict. Maybe really he is bar mitzvah. So we're strict on both ends. And that is probably the basis of the minhag. I don't know how many people observe this minhag this way, that you put on tefillin 30 days before your bar mitzvah. So if you put on tefillin 30 days before your bar mitzvah and you're born in Adar, and it's Adar Beit, and so you don't want to, maybe it's really Adar Aleph. So if you put 30 days in advance and then you're safe. You get the tefillin, you're covered, whether you're bar mitzvah and Adar. And then we're strict. We tell you, don't read from the Torah in Adar Beit. And don't be the shliach tzibur until Adar Beit comes along. But really, Adar Aleph is. But I think we can be makil or machmir that misha nichnas Adar marvin b'simcha. I think it's very nice. You can have 2 months. We need a lot. We need extra simcha. And of course, anyways, and it's interesting thinking about it. Okay, well, the Gemara gives a very weird way to observe Misha Nichnas Adar Marvim Simcha. A Jew, when Adar comes in, you should have extra joy, and therefore, what do we do because we have extra joy? Have a l'chaim, drink meat and eat meat, drink wine. I don't know. The Gemara doesn't exactly. The Gemara says what you do. It's so strange. The Gemara says if you have a court case with a non-Jew, push it up to Adar. In Av, Misha Nichnas Av Mati Misimcha. So if you have a court case scheduled for the 9 days, push it off. Push it off until after Av. It's like very funny, but it has to do with our relationship with non-Jews. Apparently, that's what the Gemara is saying, Simcha, to with our relationships. Now, that's a very important idea. And of course, Rashi quotes, I believe, that when does Misha Nichnas Adar Marvin B'Simcha? When Adar enters, we increase joy. When do we stop increasing joy? When do we go back to normal? How long does this increased joy, Misha Nichnas Adar Marvin B'Simcha, how long does it last?
All month.
Anybody?
All month.
The whole month. So Rashi says until Pesach. Rashi says, why are we happy? Because Purim and Pesach, the same way we were explained before, that we read the Megillah and Adar Beit, because we want the redemption of Purim, the redemption of Pesach next to each other. Purim and Pesach are connected, flip sides of the same coin. So too, Misha Nichnas Adar. This is the Geula season, beginning on Rosh Chodesh Adar, and all the way, right? HaChodesh Asher Napach Miyagon L'Simcha. Right? You have in the Megillah. The Megillah says it's the whole month. It's the month of Adar. And Nisan HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodeshim. And the Gemara says, and the Dvarim Torah says Shamor Chodesh Haviv Vasita Pesach. It doesn't even give you dates. Chodesh Haviv. You can do Pesach the whole month of Aviv, that sounds like. And HaChodesh Asher Nefach. So you see the holiday of redemption, it's not so much the day. Yeah, of course, we observe it on the day, but it's the whole month, becomes a month of redemption. So therefore, from Misha Nichnas Adar goes at least till Pesach, and I would argue, of course, it's hard to argue this, but I'm going to argue that it goes all year. It never ends, maybe enough. And then why do I say that? because the last Ramah in Orach Chaim, it's beautiful. I didn't you can look it up afterwards. Maybe I can show you afterwards. The Rav Moshe Isserlis, of course, the Ashkenazic commentary, or part of the Shulchan Aruch. What made the Shulchan Aruch? What made it the accepted work is because it has within the same book the Sephardic and Ashkenazic practices. I mean, what makes a book enduring is when people write about it, when people comment on a book. That was what makes Shakespeare enduring, because for hundreds of years people write commentary on Shakespeare. People write commentary on Chumash, Lahavdil, on the Talmud. So somebody wrote a book like, okay, so the Riv, so the Shulchan Aruch, because of these so many commentaries, that's one of the reasons it became the standard book. But the Ramah ends off, the last four words in Orach Chaim, I believe, are Tov Lev Mishta Tamid. A good heart is always joyous, is always celebrating. That's because Shulchan Aruch ends with Hilchot Purim. The Orach Chaim, the first section of the Shulchan Aruch, the way it goes, the way the Mishnah Berurah divides it into 6 volumes, right? So volume 1 is getting up in the morning. Volume 1 and 2 are getting up in the morning and davening and Birchat Hamazon and Bracha, all the stuff you do like from waking up to going to bed at night. Mincha, Mari, Birchat Hamazon, all those halachas. 3 and 4 are Shabbos. 3 and 4 are Shabbos, and 5 or 6 are the holidays. So beginning at Pesach, that's the first holiday, going till Purim. And so the Orach Chaim section of Shulchan Aruch ends at Hilchot Purim, and talking about Purim Katan and 2 Purims and having a feast. So the Ramah ends Tov Lev Mishta Tamid. A person who has a good heart is always rejoicing. And I always like to tie that into the opening comment of the Ramah, Shiviti Hashem L'negdi Tamid. I should put God before us always, of course, quoting a pasuk in Tehillim that adorns many of our shuls. But the idea is that when you have God in front of us, then we are going to have joy. As Rav Soloveitchik could always explain, the ultimate in joy is to feel the presence of God. Usmachtem lifnei Hashem shivat yamim. The reason Yom Kippur is such a happy day because we're in the presence of God. Sukkot usmachtem lifnei Hashem, rejoice before God. That's the ultimate in Simcha. So we begin Shivit Hashem. We end Tov Lev Mishta Tamid. So I think Jews are always supposed to be happy. Okay, in Av, we be a little less happy. By the way, you have to be happy in Av. It doesn't say Misha Nichnas Av Mematim, I don't know, whatever, or Marbim Avel or something. It says Mematim B'Sim. You have a little less joy. You have to be happy in Av, but not as happy as you are the rest of the year. Okay. Any questions, comments? We can go on. Okay. I did speeches at Shul on 2 others.
One quick question. I have a quick question. What did the rabbis expect to learn by waiting out the first Adar, then to decide whether or not there's a second Adar? I don't understand what on earth they could possibly learn.
Okay, so it had to do with crops. You have to look. The Gemara and Sanhedrin discussed it. I'm not holding there. Part of it had to do with how much the crops were. It had to do with the weather on Yom Kippur. Of course, listen, agriculture, all our holidays are based on agricultural. So I guess they were looking for certain signs. If they didn't think the Omer would be ready, right? Like for Pesach, if the new wheat wouldn't begin to sprout, then you had to push off, Pesach. So you bring the Korban Omer. So it probably depends how much rain there was, a whole bunch of different factors. So they would often wait till the end of the year, the last week in the year. The Gemara says that one of the things that Chizkiyahu did, Chizkiyahu, the great king, the Mishnah says he did 6 things. 3 things the rabbis agreed, and 3 things the rabbis thought he made a mistake. So one of those is Iber Nisan bin Nisan. He decided to make a second month in Nisan. So I said, what do you mean in Nisan? How could he do that? So it means on the 30th day of Adar, today, he decided to make a second Adar. So since today could be or Rosh Chodesh, I mean, it would be, it'd be on the 30th of Adar, not a month from today. Since that 30th day of Adar could be the first of Nisan, that's already too late. So you have to declare by the 29th of Adar. So the Gemara, apparently, that's what the Gemara says. He wanted to wait till the last minute. Today, our calendar's fixed. Today, we don't live agriculturally. So, just think of all our holidays are only historical holidays. That's not the way it is in the Torah. The mentioned many times. Sukkot is mentioned 7 times in the Torah. 6 of them are about agriculture, and 1 of them is about sitting in a sukkah, which is also sort of agricultural on a certain level, right? The history part is much less. But okay, we obviously we're living in Poland. You're not going to celebrate the agriculture of Shavuot, the Bikurim and all the things we do, and the Omer, all this stuff. So our calendar today is fixed. I mean, not just for that reason, but we have of course, Guach Hadzat, right? Everyone know Guach Hadzat. The Gimel Vav Chet. The leap years are 3, 6, 8 at Aleph Dalid. It's 1 and 4, it's 11 and 14. Zat, Zayin Tet. 7 and 9, 17 and 19, 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, 19. Those are the 7 years. What year are we in now? So you take out your calculator, divide 5784 by 19. You get that way. We're in the 304th cycle, 1984, 76. So we're in the 8th year. That's why Pesach is very late this year, because we just had a leap year 2 years ago. Sort of normally every 3 years, but 7 out of 19 is not exactly 1 out of 3. Sometimes it's 2 out of 3. So when you have the second of the 2 of the 3, everything's really late. So Pesach this year ends April 30th. No, am I correct? I think it's the latest it can ever end. I don't know how many hundreds of years it's going to go to May 1st and, eventually to June 1st. And we're sort of in trouble. Our calendar is not for now, but I guess it is for now because I'm talking about it. But, our calendar is not exactly perfect, right? We have a Julian calendar. That's what we use. In other words, that the day, we use a Julian calendar. We never adjust it to a Gregorian calendar, right? The Julian calendar assumes that the year is 365 and a quarter days. We know that's not true. Pope Gregory in 1527 or whenever it was chopped 11 days off the calendar because, the year's only 365 days, 5 hours, 47 minutes, and how many seconds that it is. So big deal, 13 minutes a year, you're off. Okay, who cares? Even if you live to be 120, 13 minutes times 120. So what does that get you? It gets you 1,300 minutes, 1,400 minutes. It's not even a whole day. It's not such a big deal. But over 1,500 years, it begins to add up. So he had to chop 11 days off on the calendar. I think I told you.
It was 10 days.
Was it only 10 days? I don't know.
10
Maybe.
days.
I was watching Jeopardy once, right? And they had, the answer was October 4th to October 15th or something, 1562. And I said, of course, I said, Aser to make tshuva. Of course, I was wrong. But okay, but that's the first thing that pipes into my mind. October, want to be Aser to make tshuva. But so we never adjusted for that. In other words, that's why we say B'tein Talumatar on December 5th. And we used to say it in the 1800s on December 4th. Right, if you look in the old Siddur, they used to say December 4th. Then in 2100, we'll say it on December 6th, because what happened is it's supposed to be 60 days after the fall equinox. That's what the Gemara says. You say it in Babel 60 days after Kufat, Tishrei, whatever. You say it 60 days later, 60 days after September 21st. The fall equinox is November 21st. So that's when they used to say it. But the problem is November 21st became December the 2nd or whatever it became, I guess December 2nd. And remember the years that are not divisible by 4, the century years. So 1700, 1800, and 1900 do not have leap years because it's off by 3/4 of a day in 100 years, no, whatever, not a full day. So we don't have the leap year on we had it in 2000. That's why we don't realize it. But they didn't have it in 1900, so we lost another day. So it goes up another day because there was no February 29th to hold us back. So we went December 2nd, went to December 3rd, to December 4th, December 5th. That's when we say it. So we work on the calendar, which we know is wrong. And that's why Birchas HaChama said April 8th. What do you mean, Birchas? If the world was created in the spring, that's the funny part. On Rosh Hashanah, we assume the world was created in the fall. Hayom Harad Olam. When we do Birchas HaChama every 28 years, why do you do Birchas HaChama in Nisan? Because the 4th day of Nisan, that's when the sun was created. Birchas HaChama every 20, and it's 365 and a quarter days. So it takes 28 years, a quarter, to go 7 days to be at the exact same spot. Going to take 28 years, 7 times 4, 28, of course, which isn't really accurate. But so that's what we do it. So then we assume the year starts in Nisan. That's a funny way. That's okay, because we don't really know. We don't really care. And the year starts in Nisan or Tishrei. So, but it should be March 21st. What's it's April 8th. But it's because of this going on the Gregorian calendar. I mentioned, since some people might get upset, I said we don't care when the world was created. Yeah, so I was right. I got it. That's good old Jeopardy. Thank you, Zev. Right. So I said a Sefer to make Tshuva. That's late. I don't think Rosh Hashanah ever makes it to October 5th. Goes to maybe October 3rd, Rosh Hashanah. So our calendar is slowly drifting away. And the Mishnah Berurah says, no, it's pretty soon, not pretty soon, but eventually Pesach's going to be in the summer, and and Sukkot will be in the winter, mamish in the winter, not just in the Canadian, almost winter. And the Mishnah says, don't worry about it. By that time, the Mashiach will be here. No, I don't know. So at some point, we're going to have to worry about it, because at some point, we're going to really be celebrating holidays when we're not allowed to. You're not allowed to have Sukkot so late. But anyways, we'll leave that as an aside. Okay, let's get to Emet VeYatziv, what I said we would do, the third bracha of the Shema. So the first thing to realize, it is a bracha. Emet VeYatziv, we finish Hashem Elokechem Emet, and now we say Til Ga'al Yisrael, just like Haba Rabbah and Yotzer Or. So this is a bracha, but it doesn't start with Baruch, because we have a general principle. When you say two brachot in a row, the second bracha doesn't start with Baruch. So therefore, in Shmona Esrei, it's Baruch Atah, Magen Avraham. Okay, then Atah Gibor. We don't have to start. And Atah Kadosh, and Atah Chonein, and Slach Lanu, and Rifeinu. We don't say Baruch, Baruch, because when the brachas are next to each other, we don't have a baruch at the beginning of the bracha. We have at the end of the bracha. So here at the end of the bracha is Ga'al Yisrael. This is the bracha of Geula, of the redemption. So by the way, it's interesting. Let's say in Havdalah. So why do we say Samim and Bormir or Eish there? We do make bracha, or at a Sheva brachas. We say Yotzer Hadam Shakol Bara Lichodo Asher Tzar, and then all of a sudden Sostasi Samech Samach. That's an Ava Baruch. That's very interesting. Won't go into now, but it has to do with, can you say these brachas independently? Can you say the brachas, like, are they really connected, or like the Shmona Esrei is really connected? We assume that if you miss one of the 18 or 19 blessings of Shmona Esrei, you miss the whole Shmona Esrei. If you forgot Yalav Yavo, anybody today forgot Yalav Yavo? Rav Chaim has a whole chiddush, but the standard practice, the accepted practice used to be that you repeat the whole Shmona Esrei. What do you repeat the whole Shmona Esrei? I missed one bracha. Okay, 18 out of 19, not bad. So no, because they're all interconnected. So if you skip Slach Lanu, you didn't fulfill your obligation. But if you skip Borein Minei Psamim at Havdalah, you don't have to make Havdalah again. You fulfilled the mitzvah of Havdalah, even though you didn't say mitzvah. And if you didn't say Borim Ereish, you also fulfilled the mitzvah of Havdalah. It's only if you didn't say Hamavdim and Kodesh Lechoven or Lechosh Ben Yisrael Amim, then you didn't. That's Havdalah. The other stuff, that's just introductory stuff. That's really disconnected. The same thing Birkat HaShachar. We say Baruch, Baruch, Baruch. I don't know how else you would say it exactly, because initially those 15 brachot have nothing to do with each other. And you used to say it when you got dressed. You said Malbish Ramim, and when you put your shoes on, Rokar Tzalamayim, and you put your hat on, Oteri Tifaran, you did your belt, Oseri Bigvara. So you would do that as you got dressed in the morning. You woke up, so Cape Kefufim, you stood up, so you would make every bracha. But we don't do that anymore, because people won't know what to do. It's too confusing for people. So we come to shul and we ramble them off one after another. But the brachot are not interconnected, really. They really have nothing to do with each other. So the same now. But Emet VeYatziv, so this is really interesting. What do you mean it's bracha smucha lechaverta? It's not bracha smucha the chaverta. The bracha we had is habocher b'mo Yisrael b'yava. Then we said Shema. So you see something very interesting. Shema is like a continuation of the bracha. It's not like a hefsek. It's not like we pause in the middle, because I could say, okay, we have two brachot before Shema. Then we say Shema. Okay, Shema is the end of the first bracha. Then we have to have another bracha after Shema. So that other bracha after Shema should start with Baruch. And we say no. We say no, because it's totally connected. That Shema is part of, you want to say that Shema is part of the way we bless God. Part of the bracha. It's not just Yotzera or Morot and Rabbah. Shema Yisrael is also a bracha. Now, the link between Shema the link between Shema and Emet VeYatziv is very interesting. Okay, let's say, I don't know how many people have done this recently, but maybe tomorrow in shul. Does anybody go to a shul where people come late? I don't know if there's shuls exist like that, where somebody might walk in after the announced time of them. You go to such a shul, you heard of such a shul? You know, such a shul. I was just talking to somebody this morning. Somebody told me, oh, I'm going to tell a story. They made davening 10 minutes later because people were coming late to davening. I said, come on, give me a break. Boy, you don't understand anything. Whenever you start davening, people come 10 minutes late. It's not that they can only get to shul at 10 after 9. If the minyan starts at 8:30, they come at 8:40. The minyan starts at those who come 10 minutes late. People come half an hour late, come half an hour late. We all know it's totally irrelevant when minyan starts. Everybody comes to minyan at a certain time late. Okay, so somebody walks in and you're saying Shema. You're in the middle of Shema. And he walks in and says, Shalom Aleichem. So what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do?
Say Aleichem Shalom.
Of course. I mean, without getting into all the details, but yes, that's the second paragraph in Masechet Brachot. Brachot opens up the Talmud. So it doesn't take you very far of learning Daf Yomi. Within 2 weeks of Daf Yomi, you're already learning how much you can say and when you can say it. So the Gemara distinguishes, it depends who it is who walks in, and it depends if it's your parent or your teacher or just a guy off the street, or it also depends where you are. Are you in the middle? You're saying Vishinanta Levanecha, or are you finished? We're not interested in going over the halakas now, but it's an amazing halakha. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to interrupt Shema, not by Shmon Esrei. Shmon Esrei, you're standing before the king silently, your feet together. You're like in a different road. Shema, you're walking on the street. You say Shema is normal. You're just however, you can be standing on your head. You're on the top of the tree, right? We discussed that a number of weeks ago, I think. Right? You can say Shema, a worker says Shema on the top of the tree. For Shmon Esrei, has to come down from the tree. You can't concentrate. Shema requires much less concentration than just carrying on your normal activity. So you can interrupt the Shema and say hello to people. Or this happens if something comes like the chazans at Kedusha. So you're allowed to answer, even in the middle of Shema, you can answer Kadosh, 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 and Baruch Kavod Hashem Yimkomo. Nekadesh and Yimloch, you don't answer because they're considered not as important. The main part of Kedusha are the two middle, what Yeshayahu and Yecheskel say, Kadosh, 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 and Baruch Kavod Hashem. Somebody wrote, you can't say Shema in a disrespectful way. I'm not sure what the disrespectful way is here. It's what the halacha teaches, a beautiful halacha. We learn it from Avram Avinu, basically. Avram Avinu was talking to God, and he saw 3 Arabs, right? But that's what he saw. 3 Arabs, idol worshippers. How do we know they're idol worshippers? The Medrash says he made them wash their feet in case they had, the crumbs of idolatry on their feet. They had to wash. So Avram's talking to God, and he sees idol worshippers coming. Oh, God, I got to go greet the idol worshippers. We welcome everybody into our home. Amazing, right? You know that everybody knows that, but nobody actually thinks about it. Gadol haknasad orkim yoter mikabala pnei Ashkenaz, the rabbis say. It's greater to welcome guests than to accept a divine presence. God can wait. God can wait till 120. But guests can't wait. They're hungry. You got to say, they're idolaters. Who cares that they're idolaters? You have to give charity to idolaters just like you do to Jews. That's amazing. We don't think like this. That's a big problem. So I'm saying Shema, No, you're saying Shema. So you're saying Shema to accept God. God wants you to accept guests. So obviously you interrupt and you say hello. Again, there are details in halakha, so you'll learn all the details. I don't know anybody who does this anymore. I don't know why. So they'll tell you our shuls are different. I don't know. But the halakha in the Mishnah is very, very clear that you do interrupt. So why am I telling you all this? You're not allowed to interrupt. Like I said, you can't interrupt in the Shmon Esrei. You also can't interrupt between Hashem Elokeichem and Emet. Hashem Elokeichem Emet. If you say you finish the second paragraph or the first, or Kimei Shemaim Al Haaretz, that's the better place to interrupt because you finish the whole chapter. And I finish Ani Hashem Elokeichem. Good. Finish the third chapter. No. I have to say Emet, and we all know that's how Shema ends, but it's not really true. Shema doesn't really end the Shem Elokeichem Emet. If you look in Bamidbar, where the third paragraph comes from, Ani Hashem Elokeichem Asher Tzatiyechem Eretz Yisrael Niyotachem Elohim. Ani Hashem Elokeichem. There's no Emet in the Torah. That's the rabbis added in this Emet, and they added it, and it's so important that you cannot say Hashem Elokeichem and stop. You have to say Emet immediately. That's what we all do. We say Hashem Elokeichem Emet, and the cousin repeats Hashem Elokeichem Emet, even though Emet has nothing to do with the Shema. The rabbis connected it to the Shema. That meaning they're telling us, so it's part of the Shema, it's part of the same bracha. We don't separate Baruch, but they're telling us something really important. That Emet is what Shema is all about. Kabbalah Ol Malchut Shemayim, what Shema is about Emet. You have to link Hashem Elokeichem. God is our Lord, or the Lord is our God. The Lord is our God, and that Lord our God is true. That Lord our God is true. And I mentioned, I think, so if you look at the bracha, you'll see Emet is the keyword. So I happen to have you have to have, I don't know if they have this in the art scroll, but in the Koran Siddur, the Emet, it sticks out. Like if you see, I don't know if you can see, but it sticks out. They put it on the side. I think there's 6 Emets here. Right, Emet VeYatziv, Emet Elohei Olam, Emet ve'amuna, Emet she'ata Hashem Elokeinu, Emet ata Adon levadecha, Emet ata hu rishon, hu ta'achron, Emet, 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 Emet. True, 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 true. So that's Hashem Elokeichem Emet. So that's the theme of this bracha. Really, 2 themes, or the themes, I guess, are connected. One is, of course, God is truth, or we'll have to see what is Hashem Elokeichem Emet, and of course, Yetziat Mitzrayim, which we'll get to. Now. The Gemara says, what's the one character trait of Moshe Rabbeinu?
Anivus.
Anivus. Aish Moshe Anav Moad Mikol Adam Asher Pnei Adama. Right. That's very fascinating that Moshe had a lot of character traits, but the only everybody has a lot of character traits. The only character trait the Torah tells us about Moshe was he was humble. Why was he so humble? I mean, what made Moshe so humble?
He was a shepherd.
So yeah, but he spoke to God. He was a shepherd. That was in his old life. He graduated from being a shepherd. Very nice, Simon. The Rav says those Emets out loud. Cool. Okay, very nice. What shul you're in Queens, or you live in Queens?
Rabbi Taub.
Oh, Rabbi Taub in Toronto. He grew up in Toronto, of course.
Yeah.
Rabbi Taub's
Buffalo.
son was there.
Buffalo and Hollis Street, Queens.
Right.
Queens. Young Israel Hollis. Correct.
Right. Okay, very nice. He says them out loud. Very, very nice.
Now I understand why.
Yes, you got it. Emet, Emet, but you see, Hashem Elokeichem Emet. It's so. I mean, it's obvious if you think about it. I didn't think about this either for many years, But and it's very nice how the Koran actually highlights it. They put it like in its own column, so you can see. I don't know if Art Scroll does it. I don't believe so. I don't remember ever seeing that in Art Scroll. Okay, but anyway, so why is Moshe so humble? So I think the obvious reason is lahavdil elef alpei havdalot. I can't help it. Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, that's like the avodas, whatever it is, right? So if you got to meet, what's the guy's name? Okay, I never heard of Taylor Swift. I'm sorry, I'm an Amma Aretz. I never heard of Taylor Swift till, I don't know, 3 months ago, till she started to show up at Kansas City Chief games, right? Everybody knows. I didn't know who she was. Okay, what do you want? Trevor Kelsey, I had heard of, I must say. I do follow a little bit sport, not so much anymore. But so if you got to meet Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, and you're like a high school quarterback, and you get to meet Pat, you're like, wow, this guy's unbelievable. When you encounter greatness, you are humbled. Go to the Grand Canyon. Let's say, I've never been actually, but you go to when you encounter greatness, it's humbling. You meet a great scientist. You meet someone who, wow. So Moshe Rabbeinu spoke face to face to God. He had to be the most humble person. I mean, maybe he didn't have to be. Maybe he could be very arrogant about it. I spoke to God. But if you're a decent person, somebody who speaks face to face with God meets the ultimate in greatness. I think that's the explanation. Maybe you have other explanation. But that's how I always understood, because Moshe came face to face with greatness. And that's why he's very humble. Okay, good. So Moshe's humble. What's the one character trait of God? That's not really true. One character trait of God, because there are 13 character traits. Hashem Hashem al Rachlon v'Chanun Erech Apayim. Right. So what is Chesed? That's one of them. Erech Apayim Rav Chesed VeYemet. No, it's Chesed Lapim. I'm sorry.
Chotamo Emet, his signature.
There you go. Shabbos 55a, Chotamo Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emet. The signature of God is truth. It's a very fascinating mark. God is the God of truth. And now you understand, Moshe Emet, v'Torato Emet. Moshe also, it's true, I just talked about being humble, but you know, Moshe Emet, v'Torato Emet. Moshe is true, and the Torah is true, because Moshe is the closest to God. So that he too embodies truth. Unlike Aaron. Aaron does not embody truth. Aaron embodies peace, shalom. That's why he builds, whatever his role is, to build a golden calf. And we know Aaron used to lie. The rabbis, they praise him. I mean, it's a good thing, but that's not truth. He used to lie that he wants to make up with you, and they want to make up with you. And, you know, he would, and we all know that what's more important, truth or peace? What's more important?
Peace.
Peace. So, right, they're in conflict, of course. Truth and peace are in conflict. But ultimately, peace is more important. And so it's interesting. Yeah, but now we say, nonetheless, Moshe and God are truth, symbolize truth. There's something to symbolize truth. We sometimes we can't implement. We don't live in a divine world. We don't live in a world that's a perfect world. We can ha'amet v'hashalom ehavu, right? That's the pasuk in Zechariah. Some are Revi'it, some are Chamishit, some are Shviv, and some are Svi. The 4 fast days that commemorate the destruction of the temple will turn into days of joy. Everybody quotes that during the fast day. And then what they often don't quote is the rest of the pasuk in Zechariah. Ha'amet v'hashalom ehavu. A peace and truth you shall love. And I believe the Rav quotes his father, and Rav Moshe Soloveitchik, to say that, of course, peace and truth are in conflict often, and it's only in Yemot HaMashiach, when these fast days will be days of joy, that somehow the world will be in a state where we can reconcile, truth and peace can exist in harmony. They're not in 100% conflict. So God, the ultimate, is truth, and of course, but in the real world, we need peace. By the way, that's how you have to understand the whole parsha this week. I can give many examples, but I'll just give one. This week's parsha, Mishpatim. So you look in the Torah. Let's take the most famous example: an eye for an eye, right? An eye for an eye, and we all know, what does an eye for an eye mean? Maybe we don't all know.
Monetary restitution.
Modesty. The Rashbam, of course, says that's not what it means. It doesn't really mean that. Whatever. The Pshat. So why don't we do an eye for an eye? Or the Torah in Mishpatim says 50 times. You do this, death penalty, death penalty. And we mentioned Rabbi Akiva never, ever, ever said, if I was never baking, never death penalty. Once it's 7 years, 70 years, never, right? So why does the Torah write all this stuff? And we never implement it. We don't do an eye for an eye. And if the Torah never meant it, so why does it write? You have 100 examples like this in the Torah. In Mishpatim, if your ox, you know what it says in this week's Parsha, you read it tomorrow. If your ox kills somebody, so you have to kill the ox. God forbid an ox kills somebody accidentally. So you have to kill the ox, just like they do today. If a bear kills somebody, the rangers will go out, they'll shoot the animal, because it's not respectful to a human being that an animal that, God forbid, kills a human should still live. So it says, what if the owner doesn't kill him? And then he kills somebody else. So what do you have to do? What does it say in the Torah? What does it say in the Torah? Your ox kills a second person. What do you do?
Kill him.
So the owner shall be put to death. You killed the owner. The owner knows he has an ox that's dangerous, and he can kill somebody, and he already did kill somebody, and he let it go around and it kills somebody else. Gambalav yumat. We must have killed the master. No, do we do that? Do we ever do it? That's not what it means. You pay kofar, whatever. So why does the Torah say that? The Torah never meant it. So, of course, this gives the Bible critics lots of room to say that, the Torah was pretty harsh and the rabbis, didn't like it. So the rabbis amended the Torah. It's not totally false what they say. I mean, it's just what we understand as a traditional Jew. That was God's intent. In other words, God never meant it. So why did he say it? Because the Torah is written by God. The Torah is ultimate in truth. You deserve to die. That's what we should do. That's Emet. Emet, if you want to do truth. In Shalom, in the real world, we are not going to do that. In the Torah Shabbat, we're not going to do that. So you have I would say Emet represents God. It represents a divine attribute. So that we're saying here, God, Emet, but ultimately, peace has to overrule. And that's, of course, the difference between Shema and Shmon Esrei. Shema ends, Hashem Elokeichem Emet, God is true. And how does Shmon Esrei? When we pray to God, when we describe God, like we do in Shema, I am the Lord, the God who took you out of Egypt to be your God. So God is the God of truth. But when we pray to God, we ask God, Hamavarech Amo Yisrael Bashalom. We end every Kaddish Oshes Shalom. And the Mishnah ends, the famous Mishnah, the Mishnah ends that Lo Matzah Kaddish Baruch Hu Kli Tov. Okay, can you reach us up, please? God didn't find a vessel good for the people. Ella Hashalom. That's the last Mishnah of the 4,200, I think, Mishnayot. In Uksin, in Ta'arat, Lo Matzah Kadosh Baruch Hu Kli Machzik Tova Ella Hashalom Shenemar Hashem Oz Lamo Yitein Hashem Yivarech Et Amo Bashalom. So you have these tensions. I think I mentioned last year when J.J. Schechter, Rabbi J.J. Schechter ran this the Yarchei Kallah for rabbis. So I think right at the beginning, I don't know if I mentioned it, and if I did repeat it, I thought it was such a beautiful thing. He said, in our shuls, the chazan waits for the rabbi at two places. The rabbi is usually traveling a little slower. They don't wait for him. It actually take an extra 10 minutes. People are in a hurry, right? So, but you have to wait at Shema and Shmon Esrei. Everybody knows it's very disrespectful not to wait for the rabbi at Shema and Shmon Esrei. So he said, I thought it was so beautiful. I never thought of it. What do we wait? We wait for the rabbi at Emet and Shalom. And he says that's the function of a rabbi. A rabbi's job is to somehow coordinate. You have to know when do you bend things, right? That's Torah Emet, but Torah, it's also Shalom. So the rabbi's role is to somehow resolve the tension that exists. I thought it was such a beautiful, a little cute word, that we wait for the rabbi at Emet and we wait for the rabbi at Shalom. Okay, so we cannot break. Emet is part of Shema, is accepting the yoke of heaven. That's what all of Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So even though we can say hello to people, and we can answer the Kedusha in the middle, or at least at the end of the paragraph, but even in the middle of the Shema, you can answer Kadosh, Kadosh, but not between. I mean, it's not hard to say that one extra word. You can say Emet, and then you can answer. But you cannot do it between Hashem Elokeichem and Emet. That is not allowed. So it's such a beautiful idea, and obviously it's very powerful. And it's not in the Torah. That's the rabbi said. No, Emet is sort of part of the Shema. Okay, Yochanan, I see somebody has their hand up. If you ask a quick question, otherwise we can wait till the end. You have a 10-second question, I'm happy to take it now. Otherwise, let's wait till the end. Okay, we can.
Thanks, Rabbi. Just wanted to mention that according to the Talmud and the Maimonides, it says the whole Torah was given only because to create shalom, to create peace.
100%. And Ruth, and the Gemara says, why is Ruth written? To say the importance of chesed. Listen, what the Torah is telling us with Moshe and Aaron, they were the dual leaders. Moshe represents complete truth. It doesn't work, he breaks the tablets. How can you give tablets to people who are sinning? Moshe is a man of truth, so he has a little bit of he gets angry at people a lot. He doesn't. People who are we know that there's some people who are so they can't tolerate fools. I think that's the expression we use. So Moshe was so consumed with the ultimate truth. He experienced God. I mean, God, the Torah Emet. So how can he tolerate that? But you know what? That doesn't work in the real world. You need Aaron HaKohen. You need Oev Shalom, Verodev Shalom. Have me tell me. We don't say Have me Talmidav Shel Moshe. That's not what the rabbis say. Don't be a student of Moshe. Better to be a student of Aaron. Have me Talmidav Shel Aaron. Oev Shalom, Verodev Shalom. What's the next expression? Umakarvam, the Torah I may be missing, and bring them close to the Torah. And I think I heard it from Dr. Lam, I think originally, Oev Shalom, Verodev Shalom is the way to bring people to Torah. It's not like love peace and pursue peace. That's one thing you have to do. And you have to bring people closer to Torah. No, the way you bring closer to Torah is through peace. And peace, sometimes it's a little, now you can't, I'm not talking about falsifying things and lying. I'm not talking about intellectual dishonesty. That's a terrible thing. But I mean, I'm talking about, like, we know that. You have to compromise. You have to give up on truths, right? It's true in the political sphere. If you want to hold truth, you want to know what Israel's entitled to. That's very nice, but we'll never have peace. You have peace, you have peace, you're going to have to compromise, and you have to give up some of your rights. So it applies in every field of life. But anyways, that's but here in the Shema and this bracha of Shema, this part of the Siddur, we're focusing on Emet, Emet, Emet. Okay, so that's now we're also, it was interesting, it just hit me this morning as we said Hallel. The second theme I mentioned is, of course, the Exodus. It doesn't show up really till later on. It's a long bracha. I mean, Emet VeYatziv, but it's like 2 pages. All the Rishonim, Achronim, Ezra, Avotenu. It's a very long bracha. Remember, it's the third bracha. 2 bracha before Shema, 1 after. It's quite long. And then but eventually we talked about Egypt. Mimitzrayim galtanu, mibeit avadim peditanu. God redeemed us from Egypt, from the house of slavery. Kol b'charem harakti, killed the firstborn. Our firstborn he saved. Yam supakate, split the sea. Zaydim tibata. The rhyme. They drowned. Yedidim havarta, those who you love, the Jewish people, you passed them through. V'chasumayim sareim, and the water went over. This is toward the end. That's why we praise God. We sing praises to God. Shirot v'tishbachot sounds already like, in Yishtabach brachot v'odot l'melech chai v'chayim. It almost sounds like the Yishtabach prayer, right? Shirot tishbachot brachot v'odot l'melech chai v'chayim. Ram v'nisa gadol v'neiram ashpil gayim. So this is all about Egypt, Motzei Esrim, and that's the theme, of course, which ties into the third paragraph of the Shema. The end of the Shema, it's Mitzrayim. That's why, according to the opinion, right, one of the reasons we say the third paragraph is that tzitzis doesn't apply so much. It's Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim. And to remember the Exodus, this is the way we fulfill the Exodus. As a matter of fact, we've mentioned a number of times the view that that saying Shema is only a rabbinic mitzvah. That's not the accepted view, and it comes as a surprise to people. But the Gemara has such a view, which makes a lot of sense, because is talking on teaching Torah. It's not talking about saying Shema, and that's one interpretation of the Talmud. That interpretation says Shema is the Rabbanan, but Emet VeYatziv is the Oraita. The biblical mitzvah to say Emet VeYatziv, because that has Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim in it. But it's interesting. So anyway. So that's what the Gemara has, one opinion. I assume when they mean Shema there, they mean the first 2 paragraphs, because the third paragraph of Shema also is Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim, but the first 2 paragraphs do not. The first, which is the main sort of part of Shema, we discussed why did they add on the third paragraph? Because the first 2 paragraphs don't talk about Egypt, and we know there is a mitzvah 300 Kol Yemei Chayacha. Right, whether it's day and night, that's arguable, but everybody agrees it's every day. You have to say Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim every day, and that we can fulfill by Emet VeYatziv. So that's the theme, of course, which also ties it in to the third paragraph of the Shema. So the idea of truth, and of course, God's truth was revealed through taking us out of Egypt. Obviously, they go together. I mean, that's how God revealed himself in the world, both to Paro, right, over and over. You will know, who's this God? I never heard of this God. Don't worry, you're going to know who this God is. It's not only Paro has to know who this God is, the Jewish people have to know. So Emet, I think the truth of God, establishing the truth of God, and Yetziat Mitzrayim, of course, go hand in hand. And that's the 2 themes of the bracha. We start the Emet, and then we'll have to get, okay. And the other thing the Gemara says, according to one opinion, it's a biblical mitzvah. The Gemara says, whoever doesn't say Emet VeYatziv in the morning and Emet ve'emuna, which is a different version, we'll get there maybe in another 400 classes, please God, and when we get into Mariv. So Emet ve'emuna, whoever doesn't say Emet VeYatziv in the morning and Emet ve'emuna at night didn't fulfill his obligation. So it's interesting. So I think it's so one of the first on the Gemara says, well, obviously, if you don't say it, you don't fulfill your obligation. Like whoever doesn't daven in the morning, who doesn't ever put on tefillin, didn't fulfill his obligation. Obviously, didn't fulfill his obligation. So what is the Gemara saying? Whoever doesn't say Emet VeYatziv in the morning and Emet VeEmuna at night, lo yatzeh yedei chovato, and they quote a pasuk lahagid baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha baleilot. Lahagid, but right, is that song? Baboker chastecha ve'emunatcha baleilot. To speak in the morning of the kindness of God and faith at night. So lagi baboker chastecha is the morning, emet VeYatziv, and ve'emunatcha baleilot. So the Gemara quotes a pasuk as an asmachta. It's not really a biblical, idea that you have to say it. You have to say it both times. So I saw in one of the commentaries, the Ben Yodaya explains on the Gemara there that what do you mean you didn't fulfill your obligation? So he says like this: if you don't say it both times, you didn't fulfill either obligation. In other words, if you said only Emet VeYatziv, but you didn't say Emet VeEmuna at night, you didn't say Emet VeYatziv. You didn't fulfill the obligation of Emet VeYatziv. It's a very interesting explanation. It makes a lot of sense. The two go together. What does he mean? What do you mean the two go together? It means there are two ways we relate to God, or the Emet VeYatziv by chesed, by the kindness of God, and faith in God. You have faith in God when God is not kind to us, when there are bad things happening through Hester Panim, Holocaust. So you have to have faith in God. You don't see the chesed of God, which we'll speak to when we begin the Shmon Esrei, how the reason the Anshe Knesset Hagdol is called Anshe Knesset Hagdol is because Yirmiyahu and Daniel refused to say that God is Gibor V'Norah, because they didn't see it. The temple, what do you mean God's Gibor? It isn't true. It's an amazing Gemara. And the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah restored it. So that's why they're known as Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. So when there are bad things, emunat ka baleilot, you have to have emunah. In other words, when we accept God as a God of truth, and the God took Zavich, all these things, we're accepting God when things are good and when things aren't so good. You have to accept God in the morning and of course in the night. Obviously, the night represents emunah, faith, darkness, and the morning represents light. So that's why that's explained. It's very beautiful that you don't fulfill Emet VeYatziv goes together with Emet VeEmuna. You say one in the morning, say one in the, which is kind of interesting because I'm just thinking about this now because we know davening Mariv is only a minhag. I mean, today everybody we have to accept that minhag, whatever. But we know fundamentally there is no obligation to daven Mariv. I don't know what did they mean. I know, is this after the obligation? I don't know. I'm just thinking about this now out loud. Is he saying they taka didn't daven Mariv? They didn't say Shmon Esrei, right? But they said Emet VeEmuna. You have to say Shema. So maybe this was part of the Shema. Maybe it just means they didn't daven Shmon Esrei, or maybe this is no. Once we're davening, it's sort of after. You're right. Theory at all. These just unimportant. So I don't know. I don't know how if Emet VeEmuna. In other words, when people didn't daven Mariv, did they say Emet VeEmuna at night? I really don't know. I'm assuming most people didn't say it. Of course, I mean most people were ignorant. That's why they went to shul. They repeated the Shmon Esrei. That's the reason to repeat the Shmon Esrei. Most people didn't know how to say the Shmon Esrei. Since you don't really have to daven Mariv, Mariv was a sort of add-on, only a minhag. So they didn't. So those who didn't know the Mariv by heart didn't have a handmade manuscript of the Siddur and could read Hebrew. So they didn't daven Mariv. So it's okay. They don't have to go to shul to hear the chazan. That's obviously things have changed a little. Yeah, most small women don't daven the Arvit. Yeah, correct. So that's. There's a general, there's many poskim assume that a woman I think that the Mishnah Berurah, I think actually also poskim like this, I believe. A woman only has to daven Shachrit and Mincha. The Magen Avraham, of course, Magen Avraham earlier said, what do you mean Shachrit and Mincha? Well, most women don't daven Shachrit and Mincha either. Maybe today it's different. Beis Yaakov, the seminaries, maybe we've made people, but more observant. Throughout much of history, women didn't daven. And yet we know women have the equal obligation to man. So the Magen Avraham is, how come women don't daven? So he comes up, they say Moda Ani. That's good enough. It's a very difficult Magen Avraham. But this is part of our tradition that when religious people do things that are not really right, we look to justify what they do. That's always Jewish history works, Tosfot all the time. When the Jewish people who are religious do something, when they're not religious and they do something wrong, we yell and scream at them that they're apikorsim. I've said this many times. That's the failure of the conservative movement. When the conservative movement said you can drive on Shabbos, a bunch of awful, terrible people. When the Baal Tshuva movement says you can drive on Shabbos, they don't say it that way, but we know effectively that's what we all say. No, why it's important. You are makari the people, etc., etc. That's the way Jewish history always works. When people buy into the system, we justify their mistakes, and when they don't, we curse them out. So the Magen Avraham has this: the women don't daven. It's very difficult to justify such a practice. No, they were ignorant. What do you want? That's the way life worked. But so the Magen Avraham, when they say modani, I don't know. Did the woman who didn't daven say modani? Modan? I don't know. They do. I'm getting into trouble now.
Well,
The woman, do you say modani or modani?
Moda.
What? No, I'm serious. You
I say Moda.
Does any woman say modam? I'm just curious. Like when you Rahman al-Islam, you go to a Beis Abel, and it's only a woman who's sitting shiva. Do you say hamakom, or only one person? Do you say atchem or otcha or otach? Do you change it, or I don't know? So does any woman say moda? They all say moda. I don't know. I never. Yes.
Say modeh.
Susan,
That's what it
I'm
says.
sorry?
Sorry.
You say also
Modeh.
moda. Okay, yeah, because that's the nusach. The way it's printed is moda. Moda is already modern. You're upping the siddur. No. Okay, moda. Okay, great, excellent.
Sorry.
But anyway, so woman, there's my grandmother, my grandmother, my father's mother used to daven Mariv. She davened 3 times a day. I remember her. I mean, she lived in New York, and but I remember she was very pious, and she mamish davened 3 times a day. That's I don't know how common that is. Maybe today it's probably more common. Women are much more educated today, but it was not so common back then. And it's there is okay. I give a head there. In other words, if a woman doesn't daven Mariv, no, it's not the end of the world. If a man doesn't daven Mariv, it's not the end of the world. I remember Rav Schechter once told us, giving example, you don't have to listen to your non-observant parents. Your parents say don't kosher. I remember he actually said this. He said once, doesn't mean your father doesn't daven Mariv. Your father doesn't daven Mariv, doesn't make him non-observant. There was a man doesn't daven Mariv, it's not the end of the world either. Of course, you should daven Mariv, but it's not like don't call somebody not religious because he doesn't daven Mariv. That's beyond the pale to say such a thing. So whatever, you have to put things in perspective. A tuck is only a minhag. A Jew who doesn't wear a kippah, okay, maybe today symbolically it's very important, but it is only a minhag. I mean, whatever. Lots of things have to know. Okay, all right. So we'll have to pick up next week. We have to discuss. And it's not going to take so long because it's very hard. I don't see all the Siddurim I looked at, not one of them goes through the 15 adjectives after Emet. VeYatziv, Nachum, Kayim, Yasher, Nema, Nahu, Chavi, Nachman, Naim, Nor, Adir, Magu. Okay, so we'll go through a little bit of it next week if you have do some homework. What they all mean, and of course the question we have to discuss is what does Hadavar Hazeh mean? The very cryptic phrase. This thing. Emet VeYatziv, this thing. It's not even nice. What do you mean, this thing? So what is this thing? So we have to discuss that this week. It's also not so clear. Okay, we'll discuss. Okay, so quickly just to review, Adar, so it's Rosh Chodesh Adar. Jew should always be happy. Tov Lev, Yish Tamid, should always be joyful. But so it's okay to Mishanit Nas Adar. You can sing it today, tomorrow, every day. We need lots of joy. And I mentioned this, the Simcha, the Talmud is related to interactions with non-Jews having court cases and whether Adar Aleph or Adar Beit. Probably other Aleph. They often didn't know it was going to be a leap year. The Gemara says they're the same. Just Kriyas and Megillah should have been another Aleph, but we do it another Beit because we want the redemptions of Purim and Pesach next to each other. But if you actually read the Megillah, if you had your Purim Suda, sounds like an Adar Aleph, you don't, I mean, not today because we know, but you don't have to repeat it. You just have to read the Megillah and give such a beautiful thing to help the poor. And and that's probably the basis of the minhag why many people have that a 12-year-old boy puts on tefillin 30 days in advance in case he's born an Adar and it's we don't want him to miss. Maybe it's really Adar Aleph. Since they won't let him lay in shul till Adar Beit, I don't have to put on my tefillin. No. Really put on your tefillin now. Okay, and then we discuss Al Shem Elokeichem Emet. We link the Emet VeYatziv, it's a long bracha. It's the bracha after Shema. There's no Baruch. It's connected. Shema is not an interruption. And that non-interruption is best shown that Hashem Elokeichem Emet. We link it right away. And you can't even stop. Can't even answer Kedusha or say hello to people, greet people, all the things you are allowed to do in the middle of Shul. Moshe Emet, V'Torato Emet. Here we describe God as a God of truth. Chota Moshe, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Emet. Of course, God has to be complete truth. But we human beings, the Torah Shebichtav is complete truth. You know, you deserve this, you deserve that, you deserve to lose your eye, poke at somebody's eye, but we don't live that way. We live the Torah Shabbat, the Torah of Chesed. The Torah Shabbat is not the Torah Emet and Torah Chesed are in conflict. So the Torah Chesed, we have Aaron. We have Emet Talmid of Shav Aaron, not Shav Moshe, but there's Emet and Shalom, and that's the rabbi's role. We wait for the rabbi to resolve the conflict between Emet and Shalom, and we accept God. We say Emet VeYatziv in the morning. This is a more positive God. We took out all the positive things. At night, sometimes in the nights of Jewish history, you have to have Emunah. Okay, let's just see if there are any questions quickly in the chat box. Oh, I see there's a number of comments. I hope I'll have time to get through to them. Oh, to maintain the use of an agriculture calendar kept it close. Yeah, we talked about the whole calendar. Yeah, that was agriculture calendar. Sure, that's the way we recognize God, through farming. Emunah. The Gemara equates faith and farming for reasons we can go into maybe another time. Yeah, we discussed the Aser to make tshuva. The Gregorian calendar, our calendar is not exact. We say them mindfully. I think, right, that's talking about Bircha HaShachar. Yeah, we say them together, but they're not really connected. They were said at different points in the shul. Okay, apparently you cannot say Shema at this. Okay, we discussed that. Humility, okay. The Rav Shul said Amad La, we discussed that. That is just the point. He was before God. He felt like a dot. I don't know. I mean, he felt good. I mean, to be before God is amazing, but it humbles you. Like Lahabdil, Allah Alpeh Abdullah, you see how a great professional in any field, whether it's athletics, something. So you see how a great piano player plays, and you play. Oh my God, I thought I was a good piano player. I know nothing. I'm a nobody. That's so. Kavachomer with Moshe. Moshe was connected to truth. Truth brings humility. Okay, interesting. Chesed, right? Peace. Okay. Value for an eye. Right. We pay the value, but that's not what it says in the Torah. It says ayin tachat ayin. And we assume it never meant that, right? The Bible critics say we changed what the meaning. We assume the Torah wrote it to teach a lesson, to teach what should be, but not. It was never meant to be implemented in practice. Okay, thank you. Set a standard. What's important? The Yeshiva and Ezra's Torah Rav Tzvi Kaplan's Kodshim, Daven Shema section fast. So that's interesting. You have to tell me why, Bela. Why do they Daven Shema fast? I don't know. So usually we Daven Shema more slowly. I understand some people say al-chait fast. It's a beautiful idea. They don't want to dwell on their sins. So that's a minhag. Don't say al-chait and think about 20 sins you did. Do it quickly. That I hear. I don't exactly know what the basis of saying Shema quickly. Okay, very interesting. We have to learn the truth of how to choose when to consider not saying complete truth. Yeah, to balance truth and peace is not always easy. Of course, it's not always easy. Testifying in a courtroom now, in a courtroom, it has to be truth. The courtroom is a place of truth. That's why you can talk Lashon Hara. You have to talk Lashon Hara. You have to say what the full truth. But we want Shalom. Lashon Hara brings not peace. Okay, in the real world. But in a courtroom, I have no choice. What can you do? Most women don't have an arbit. Yeah, okay, so we said, no. What is the significance of kissing tzitzis? Very good. I'll have to discuss that next week. The truth matter is I'm not 1,000% sure why we kiss it there. So I have to go kissing the tzitzis, right? That's a minhag. I mean, that's not a big deal. You don't kiss the tzitzis, but yes, there is such a custom. Okay, I'm not sure what point, but moda. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. My son doesn't know why. I don't know. Why they do this Shema very quickly. Okay. Hazivu Yale Yafe Ole 60. Okay, we'll discuss next week. From Emet VeYatziv till Yafe. Right, that's what we'll do next week. Okay. I hope people are coming on Sunday, at least a part of the program on coping and resilience. That's 9 speakers, really, I think, an important program, and unfortunately, important program. That's beginning 9:15 Eastern time on Sunday. You can go register. It's not the same link I mentioned. You have to register, get a separate link for that. And I want to wish everybody Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi, can I ask you a quick question?
Something, quickly. I have to teach now. Very quickly, yes.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, it's interesting to me that there's a connection? Is there a connection between the fact that Shema starts with the Bracha that ends with the word Ahava, and Shemona Esrei ends with Shalom? The same is true for Birkat Kohanim. The Kohen blesses the people, Hamarechet Amo Yisrael Ba'ahava, and ends the bracha with Shalom. I'm wondering if there's
Very interesting. I
something
never
to
thought of
that.
that before. I have a whole week now that I can think about that. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom. Chodesh Tov. Be well. I have to run.
Thank
So I have to
you.
teach my kids here in chat. So, okay, be well, everybody. Thank you.